Okay, so in this video we're going to be looking at substitution. So we're mainly looking at question 2 on the problem sheet. So in this question it gives us that p is equal to 8 and t is equal to 4. And it then asks us to work out the value of 6p squared plus 2t. So when we deal with substitution, what we need to do is wherever there is a p, in this case we're going to write 8. And wherever there's a t, we're going to write 4. So let's write this out and see if we can make more sense of this. So what we're going to have first is we're going to have 6, and instead of a p, we're going to have 8. So it's going to be 6 times 8 squared. Notice here that I put this into brackets just to separate it out a little bit. Plus 2 times our t, which is 4. Here, notice that I'm also saying times, because remember when letters and numbers are next to each other in algebra, it means that they're timesing together. So we can simplify this even further. So we know that 8 squared gives me 64. Double check that if you need to. So 6 times 64, I've just simplified this bracket here, plus 2 times 4, which gives me 8. Okay, now I've got the tricky part of doing 64 times by 6. So I'll do a little working up here just to make it a little more clear. So 64 times 6, I'm going to use the column method here. So we need to start with our 6 times our 4, which gives us 24. And our 6 times our 6, which is 36, but remember we've got to add the 2, so that's going to give me 38. So we've got 384. So I'm going to now substitute that instead of my 6 times 64. And I'm also going to have my plus 8 at the end. Okay, so this gives me a final answer of 392. Double check that if you need to. Okay, now part B. So part B says if n is an even number, what type of number is n plus 1? Now, I think the best way of getting our head around this is to literally just substitute some numbers in. So I know that n is even. So I'm going to say, okay, well, let n equal 2. So I want to now find n plus 1. So notice here that on the left-hand side, I've added 1. That means I've got to do exactly the same on the right-hand side. So we're going to have 2 plus 1. Okay, so I've added but 1 to both of these sides. So n plus 1 is going to equal to 3, which you can now see is what sort of number? Brilliant, it's an odd number. Okay, so if n is even, we therefore know that n plus 1 is going to be odd, and that's our example. Brilliant. If you need any more help, please look at our substitution on the question 4.